Number one is the chart, the toluene chart from NeoP1 and NeoPX. Those are the same data points on the chart. And you show in the white paper that you inject 750 parts per billion into the sealed 35-liter chamber. And then it looks like one of the charts, the Y values kind of max out at 110, if I remember correctly. And the other one maxes out at like 800. And it's the same dot plot, like it's the same observation data. So the question is, what is the real chart and what was the actual accurate Y values?
Have them grow. Within a week, you have your testing setup done. With plants, it takes around a year from the moment where you insert the DNA and the moment where you can test the plant. And testing the plant is a bit more complex. So what we wanted to communicate from the very beginning, from the moment where we're not in stealth mode anymore, is all the data that we generated in a transparent manner, which is why we created this white paper. And the results that we communicated, we always wanted to under-promise and over-deliver. And we said, okay, let's communicate only on when it comes to NeoP1, on the performance data that we have today, which at the time was only microbiome only, because the plants were much, like I would say, earlier in a technology readiness level. They were not being tested yet. But we're like, okay, whatever happens with the plants, we can always do better. So we'll be able to communicate that actually it's better than what we previously communicated, because what we previously communicated on was just the microbiome part, nothing to do with the plant. So we thought that we were going to add to that. Turns out that the plant takes much longer than we thought to perform at a high levels in a consistent manner, and we only want to put things out there that really work. So we're like, okay, let's delay the NeoP1 plant. Let's do it. Let's continue our R&D because it's not ready yet for prime time. We want to be proud of everything that we put out there. But the power jobs are extremely efficient. They actually overperform according to what we had as our standard. So we're like, okay, this is a fantastic product that people can appreciate and value. It's a first of its kind, completely new. So let's communicate on these results nevertheless. And so we communicated on NeoPX, and this is the chart that you have. The difference between the two graphs that you're talking about is it okay if I'm a bit more technical?
Yes, please.
So the charts are done using a mass spectrometry device. So it's one of those analytical chemistry devices that gives you readings. And at first, what we communicated on, and that was a fault on our own that we corrected afterwards, actually on the second iteration of the NeoP1 white paper, before we launched NeoPX, is the Y column was not normalized to the number of carbon atoms that were in toluene. Toluene has 7 carbon atoms. And the data that showed from the machine gave us the raw data. We forgot simply to divide by 7 the results that we had. So we counted the amount of carbon that were absorbed, not the amount of toluene, of molecule that was absorbed. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. You're using the HC51M, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I noticed that device measures in ppm, and its granularity goes down to the 100th of a ppm. So if I'm and it also only measures total hydrocarbons. So you're saying essentially you read that ppm value from the HC51M in ppm, and then you translated it back to toluene. Is that right?
No, actually what it gives you is not really ppm values. The techniques gives you, it gives you the number of readings. And so the number of readings can be either particles, parts, so toluene, or carbons. Depends on how you set up the machines. And the machine was set up of number of carbon atoms and not number of molecules. So it's basically a normalization problem that we had.
Right, but the NeoP1 data is a different plant than the marble pothos of the NeoPX. And the observation data, whether you scale it for carbon atoms or not, is the same observation data. I overlaid the charts, and it's exactly the same.
Yeah, we didn't run this another experiment, just to be clear. It's the same experiment that we've run. But so the difference between NeoP1 and NeoPX is the plant itself that's genetically engineered or not.
Right.
So what we communicated on was the non-genetically engineered plants with the microbiome. And that was the only data that we showed when we talked about the Torbey graph. And so it's the same data set that we used for NeoP1 and NeoPX. The fact that we changed the abscess, it's simply just an error on our part that we corrected later on, but it's the same data set. It's just that what we wanted to do at first with NeoP1 is communicate data with the genetically modified plants on top of it. Yes, please, Leo, go ahead.
Yeah.
Maybe just to put it in a different way, what we decided, and it's a decision that we made, as a company, is that when we were working on the announcement of NeoP1, we looked at the data that we had to make claims, and we said, well, we're going to make the claims on the microbiome data because we know this data is robust. So the only data that we'll share is on the microbiome. And when we release the product, it will be a plus. So we'll have more data coming in and we'll say, well, actually, it's even better because we communicated only on the microbiome. Right. And now we're going to communicate on the microbiome and the plant.
Right.
In the end, as Patrick mentioned, we decided that we were going to hold the T1 release because we need to keep working on the plant metabolism. So what we did instead is we said, well, the results that we get from the microbiome are still really good, and this can be a product. And this was the birth of EX as we are selling it today. So that's why the graph that you see is the same, because we already had this data. We just wanted to release a product that was different. And at the end of the day, it had advantages to make those decisions, and it had also disadvantages. I would say the advantages is that we only ever communicated on data that we thought was really robust. The disadvantages is that for someone like you who look at who have been following us and look at everything, you can see that here you're like, well, I don't get it. You use the same graph for P1 and PX. It's correct, but it was showing the same data. It was showing the data of the power drops. It was showing the data of the performance of the microbiome. And right now, when you look at the product that we're selling,
the research should have stated that in the white paper. It should have said, here's the effect of a 35-liter glass chamber with just the microbiome, Pseudomonas putida, inside of the soil, and then we injected toluene. And this is what occurred. But instead, what you said is, here's the NeoP1 with this injection and the microbiome. Here's NeoPX with the injection and the microbiome. And you said the charts are the same, but you scaled the Y values different and changed the labels at the top.
Let me just correct something. So there was actually, there was two versions of the NeoP1 white paper. The first one with the wrong axis, and then we released the second one with the right axis. So this is completely independently of PX. Again, we didn't change because we changed from NeoP1 to NeoPX the axis. It's just simply that we needed to divide by 7 because the machine counts the number of atoms, the carbon atoms in the toluene, not the number of molecules. So that was just a completely error on our parts to communicate the right level. But when it's translated to CADR, it's the same type of performance. But then I understand what you're saying. The thing is, when we said, okay, this is NeoP1 plus microbiome, and this is the results that we have in the NeoP1 white paper, what we thought is, let's communicate on the data that is robust, that we repeated, that we know works really well. And then everything on top, meaning everything that the plant itself will do, will be above that. So
right, I understand that, but you can't say that the data of something, right? You're a scientist, right? Like the data of a microbiome of a plant on its own with the plant chopped off and just the microbiome existing in the NASA study did show that just the soil and the microbiome of the average beneficial bacteria in a soil does clean the air by a large amount, even without a plant. So you can't say that it's the same data set because the observation data would be different. And in your white paper, you did outline that this is a plant in the chamber with the microbiome. This is another plant in the chamber with the microbiome. Even screw the scaling.
Chris, sorry, there's a misunderstanding. The thing that needs to be cleared out a bit is NeoPX is the name of a product. What you put in it depends on what you explain in the white paper. NeoP1, NeoPX are two products. But in the end, the experiment was the same. What we said was clear about like the product as a whole, as a performance. Then what goes inside the product, it's we didn't say at no point that it was specifically the bioengineered plant or specifically the microbiome. We were clear about the fact that it's a product.
No, I can bring up the study. The study shows, and we can all bring up the white paper that shows this is the NeoP1, which is the name of the bioengineered plant, and then the NeoPX becomes the system, which is the shell, the Pseudomonas putida in the soil, as well as this marble pothos. That, to me, and what has been communicated is this bioengineered system, as all of the marketing materials Leo has put out. That is the NeoPX.
Yeah, so I think the confusion comes from NeoP1. We always refer to as NeoP1 as the bioengineered plant with the microbiome. And so let me maybe step back to explain the experiment that we've done. Maybe that'll make a bit more sense.
Yeah, do you have photos of the experiment you did?
Sure.
Just so I can, because what you're conveying is that there wasn't
a tour.
Maybe you can. Maybe I can show you actually where we do the experiments and how we set it up. Like I can show you live if you want.
Yeah. If we can do it on this call, that would be fantastic.
Sure, of course.
Yeah,
do it.
Let me just join from here.
Did you get the plant actually? I'm curious.
No.
Did you have a chance to test the product?
No, I have not. I was just digging into the white papers.
We can offer you one if you want. I think it would be a good way for you to actually experiment it.
Yeah, have you guys done any testing with Pseudomonas putida on the exact strain that you're playing with, on its effect on like animal tissue?
Yeah, on animal tissue.
Patrick will answer to you. We can go back to it.
Okay.
So, hey Chris.
Hey.
So here we test the plant. And again, the test that we've communicated on the white paper is done with a third-party university, but we do obviously our test on our own. So there's two ways we test the plant. I'm going to show you quickly the small way, like here. These are 2-liter jars with the PET sensors that we put in. So we can do like tens of those at the same time, but then we start with setup.
Are those standard Are those standard Vox sensors?
Those are PED sensors specifically tuned for toluene, benzene, or xylene, or formaldehyde, depending on which one you use. But this is not the system that we're talking about. If you want to talk about the standard in the literature, it's this system here. So I don't know if you can see it right there.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, so this is a 30, ours is 30, the one that we published, I think it's 35-liter chamber, with the pothos inside. So you can see that there's a plant.
Right.
And then I'm suspecting, I'm not sure today what we're running, but I'm suspecting there's some microbiome in there that we're testing.
Right.
We have pollution generated here. We have input valve that is here. The pollution goes through the jar, and then through the output valve here, and connected to various sensors here. Yeah, here I think it's formaldehyde that we're testing in real time. That gives you the value ppm. So these are the types of experiment that we run.
And maybe for general knowledge, this is a flow-through chambers and is described in scientific literature as the standard for measuring for phytoremediation, basically. So we use this as
Patrick, I just have a question on that before you head into the lab, if you don't mind. Sorry, Leo, I hate to interrupt. I just saw him walking out. Yeah, right.
Sure.
And why are you using 750 parts per billion?
So it depends what you want to test for.
So
I don't know.
So the average indoor air pollution of toluene in like the average Northern California office building is between like 5 and 10 parts per billion. And obviously if you are near a bunch of cars driving on the outside, you might get a spike to 20 or 50. Why wouldn't you be testing at a standardized level that the average household might be seeing?
Yeah, so it's extremely difficult to test in these conditions because the machines that we were talking about only has detection level up to a certain level. It's not that we wanted to put more pollutants. It's that we're at the stage where if you go under it, the machine is not extremely good at detecting it.
Right.
But what you're saying is it's quite true that then you need to extrapolate. But from these data, you can calculate a CADR level. Actually, I don't know, Donna, if you want to talk about it. So our head of R&D, Donna, is here. We're talking about why did we test the machine at these high PPBs. But that being said, again, the level of toluene is around 100 ppb, not 700 and something. So just to make clear, this was a mistake that we did on our original version of our white paper.
But both white papers
divide by 7.
Both white papers say 750 ppb.
Sorry?
Both white papers say a continuous flow of 750 toluene at 750 ppb of toluene.
Yes, that was a mistake. It was 700 carbon atoms in toluene. So
right, because you're toluene. Testing with the HC51M of total hydrocarbons.
Yes, so this machine measures how many carbons we have, and since we have 7 carbon in the toluene, we thought we have 700 ppb. When we did the calculation, because our experiment we repeated them several times, we found out that we need to divide this concentration by 7, which is the number of atoms in the toluene, the carbons in the toluene.
Right, because C6H5CH3, right? So there's 6 or 7 total carbons.
Exactly. Okay. So that was a mistake on our part. We needed to divide it originally, and we changed it in the second version of the NeoP1 white paper. And it's the same data set, to be completely clear, the same exact data set, same experiments that we published for NeoPX. Because again, the difference is that what we did is exactly that experiment with the normal plants for NeoP1. And we thought, okay, this is the minimum. If you take, even if the genetic modification of the plant doesn't increase in any way the performance of the NeoP1 product, it's at least as performant as the microbiome, which is actually NeoPX.
I understand why you kind of left the data as it is essentially, here's the microbiome and change, here's the microbiome and then something changes. Let's report the data on here. But as you showed in the glass chamber, there is a plant inside of that chamber, right?
Yes, but there's in no way did we test the microbiome with different plants. What we've tested when we called it NeoP1 or NeoPX is the microbiome with a pothos plant, or a pothos plant alone, or I think it was a peace lily alone, or a spider plant alone. So it was without the microbiome. It was a normal plant as if you would buy it from any shop. What does it perform as? And our solution, our product, what does it perform as? So we never added the microbiome on different plants.
Right, but
I'm sorry about the noise.
Right, the observation data is different. I'm not sure if you're selling a product to a consumer and people are meant to read your white paper, which by the way, the white papers I downloaded are still all available on your website that still say this morning 750 ppb of toluene. Right? It hasn't been normalized down by dividing by 7, so it would become, 100 units or so. If you're saying these products are the same thing, it naturally, if you put out the P1 data values from your glass chamber and those exact values you charted, that must be from before in the P1 and you copy and pasted it into the PX white paper and it's still there.
Yes.
But why wouldn't you run the experiment again? You have the chamber there.
Okay, Chris, I think there's, let me just get to a place where it's a bit less smooth.
Maybe I can screen share.
We don't hear the noise, Patrick. We hear you perfectly fine.
Okay, so just very quickly, Chris, it's the exact same experiment that we would have run if we would have run it, like we ran it again, like I think 3-4 times, if I'm not mistaken. It would be the exact same experiments. So let's say we never tested NeoP1 as we intended it originally, meaning the genetically modified plants with the microbiome. We tested it many times, but we never published the results in the white paper because we want to be 100% sure of the results before we publish. So what we did is we tested very robustly a normal plant, a normal pothos with a microbiome versus any normal plants without microbiome. And this is what we communicated on originally since the start. And yes, we literally copy-pasted it the same results because it's the exact same product.
So you're saying,
and it gave just Chris to finish what Patrick says. It gave birth to PX, right? Because initially we had the data that we use for P1 is actually the data that gave birth to NeoPX. Initially, our vision, and it's still the case, is to have a product where we have both the plant that is engineered with some performance data and the microbiome that is engineered with some performance data. At the time, the only data that we thought and evaluated as robust enough that we repeated enough time, first party, third party, was around the microbiome and the pothos plant, right? So because we're a startup, you have to keep moving. So we decided, okay, at this point in time, we have to communicate about NeoP1, but the data that we want to communicate about is the one that is related to the effect of the microbiome. So that's a decision that we made in the first place. I understand that now it's creating some confusion, but at the same time, for us as a company, it allowed us now to have a product on the market, which we believe is good, which is NeoPX, and it is based on this data. For us, of course, the work keeps going because we still want to work on the plant and bring new products out there. And I understand that, it's not an easy communication exercise to say, okay, we used only this data because we want to be rigorous about what we communicate on. And then, we release a different product with the same data. So it's true that it requires some explanation from us that we explain this. We basically explain the fact that at the beginning, we only had the microbiome data that we believed was robust enough. And we use this. Sorry, I'm just going to mute here because I have a lot of echo. So we only had the data from the microbiome because this was the one that was robust enough, and we used it for P1. And then because we decided to delay the metabolism engineering feature in P1, we released PX from that data. It gave birth to this product. This is what I'm trying to I don't know if that clarifies things, but I think what is important is that I would love you to put yourself in our shoes, which is we want to create a product that is made out of two features. It's made out of the microbiome, and is made out of the plant that is also engineered. This is P1. We worked on it for like 5 years. Right before the launch, we do the final testing on both features, microbiome, plant, and we look at the plant and we see that the performance has a lot of variation. And we're like, okay, it's not as strong as what we see for the microbiome, which is repeatable. We have tested internally, externally. So the decision at this point in time that we make is, okay, let's talk about P1, but for now, we only talk about the performance data on the microbiome because this is robust. So we go out and we talk about it. And in our mind, we say, the day we release P1, it's gonna be even better. So we'll go to our customers and say, well, actually, we told you, we communicated only about this performance, but it's even better because now we have the performance for the second feature, which is the plant engineer. Then we keep going in time. We can see that we need more time to actually iterate on this, to fix this sort of variations between the different lines of plants, whatever. We make the decision that, okay, we hold the plant metabolism feature for now, and we launch a product from the performance that we have, which is the microbiome. And that gave birth to PX. So from your perspective, as you followed the journey, you look at the two white papers and you say, I don't understand, this is the same graph and it's two different products. And you are right. It uses the same data because it's the data from the microbiome.
Right, and that makes total sense. I get why I don't get why you put the same graph, but I get how it's the same graph in that the main causal factor in changing toluene levels is the microbiome. That's the changing part. So I get that, but if you're selling a consumer a product and it's not very clear what is the PX, but it's very clear what is the P1, and you're showing it on your website and one is also a golden pothos, and then one has variegation, so it's a marble pothos. You're showing those values of the golden pothos against a normal store-bought pothos with the power drops. That's the graph. We all agree that that's the graph that we're looking at. And then it was normalized for the PX white paper. Okay. But then you're changing the plant in the PX to actually a different species of plant or a different subspecies of plant, right? So that would naturally change the outcome of the data set.
Yeah, so just quickly, from the beginning, we worked with the marble queen pothos. So we tested many different pothos varieties.
Well, what was P1?
Sorry?
P1 wasn't a golden pothos?
P1 was a golden pothos, still is a golden pothos.
Right.
When we tested the plants, we made sure that for some varieties of pothos, they have the same exact air purification capacity. And that's the case for marble queen and golden pothos. So I think that test we run were actually on marble queen pothos. The variation is extremely slight, and I think marble queen and golden is exactly the same. So we run everything on basically these two organisms, these two species. So the NeoP1 data, if I'm not mistaken, were done on the marble queen, but it wouldn't change anything if it's on the golden pothos.
Okay, yeah. It doesn't specify. It's all Epiprenum aureum.
Yeah, that's just
because it's the same. Yeah, because what in the previous test that we did, and we ran quite a few, what we see is that you can see major differences between species, but it doesn't apply for variety between the same species of plant.
Right. Yeah, Epiprenum aureum is just the standard name for pothos in general, whether it's golden pothos, marble queen, jade, etc.
Right. Okay. So in communicating the values, I just would have thought it would have made more sense to say, here is the Epiprenum aureum with normal soil, and here's Epiprenum aureum with the power drops in both of them. That would have made way more sense.
Yeah.
Because then you could see then you could see the change. You could see here's what the product we're selling you, which is pretty much the power drops on the subscription model. You would be able to see this is what I'm buying. I'm buying this microbiome change, and a lot of us have just wondered, why won't you just sell the product of bean power drops that I can add into the average aeroid and then make them air purifying?
Definitely. So definitely something that we should get better at is really making sure that people understand that the difference in this graph is power drops plus, it's the power drops plus the plants rather than just the plant alone.
Yeah.
If we didn't make it clear in the white paper, we should definitely make it clear, 100%. So this is very well known. To answer the question,
maybe just before, can you repeat what you believe would have been the best way to display this? Just so
if I'm understanding correctly, the main thing that's changing and that you are selling to the consumer isn't the shell. It's not the marble queen pothos. The main thing that's changing the toluene levels in the air is the power drops in the microbiome of the plant. So it would be very clear to simply say, here's plant with the power drops. Here's the same store-bought normalized for biomass plant, without the power drops. And then you can see the levels different, and then the consumer can understand truly just what the effect is of what the plant is doing. Because as the data is laid out, I know we've taken a lot of time, but even the CADR values, as you guys scale them, it looks like a 10x change, and that's how you guys sell it, as a 10x difference when it's calculated by CADR.
Definitely, that's something that I think we should do, because we want to be as transparent as we can on what we test. So this is very good feedback. So we'll do that and be much more clear about what it is exactly you're saying. And it's right, the power drop, drive the performance. Let me just add one thing, and then I'll let you continue, Leo. On the thing that you talked about, what if I just buy the power drops and put it on my plant because I already have plants, etc. Again, we're trying to be data first and as transparent as we can. We don't want to encourage that for people, because first we need to test if it works on all the plants, because it takes some time to test this. So once we put the power drops on the plant, you need to be sure that it stays active for at least a month, and then that it drives the right performance, because it will interact with the root system, with the soil of the plant, and you have this interaction. That's what makes it last for a month, this interaction between the plant and microbiome. So we're running tests right now because a lot of people, since we launched the product, are asking this exact question: can I just add power drops on my already existing plants? So now we're running tests with 10 different ornamental plants to just be sure that it actually works on other plants. So that we can communicate it works in this condition, this much, and that condition, that much with these types of plants. So for sure, this is something that we're running right now. But again, I think we would really like to keep this conversation going, Chris, because we really try to be as transparent as we can, and we realize that we're doing a bad job at communicating externally. So thank you very much for the feedback on this this graph. If it's still online, this graph, we should we'd like to keep the NeoPlants white paper online, of course, but we'll change the axis if it's not done yet. This is an error on our part. And I think we need to make it clear on the PX white paper that it's just plants plus microbiome.
Right, and also while you're there, change the 750 ppb of toluene, because it's really just right.
Yeah, exactly. That was the axis that I was talking about. Yeah, for sure.
Right, but the axis. But if you read up the next paragraph, it's in bold font. It says 750 ppb is being injected in. At least on the P1, it looks like you guys changed it. Oh no!
Yeah,
the PX, it says, in order to assess blah blah blah, we designed an experiment in which we place 35-liter glass chamber with a continuous flow of toluene at 750 ppb. That's off of your white paper.
Yeah, then you need to change it. Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot for this. Yeah, it's 110 or something, the actual ppb level.
Okay, and back to the point of why you aren't testing at the 10 to 20 ppb of toluene. Is there not measurement equipment that goes down to that level of granularity?
There is.
Sorry,
and
one sec. Yeah. Just 1 sec. I'll let you keep going maybe for 2-3 minutes, Patrick. But we have the other call, so I'm going to jump in the other one. And if that's okay, Chris, I'm sorry, we're a bit out of time, but I'll let you continue. Okay.
Okay.
Super.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for the time.
And to answer the question about is there a machine that does that? Yes, there's one machine in the world that goes to this amount of precision. It's called a PTRMS. This is where we're now testing the plants. These are chambers, 16 square meter chambers,
right,
where we put the plants and we have the detector linked to that. We have 2 of these rooms that we've created. And so this is to run the tests on proper indoor environment, not just this level of pollution, but also all the dynamics that happens in the room. So I'm very happy to answer any rapid fire question you have.
Yeah, that by the way, that room is really cool. It's great to see you test it in like a room size space instead of just a small chamber. So
that was a huge milestone for us as a company, because nobody has ever done that.
That's huge.
Any air purifier doesn't do that, because it took us like a year and a half to build these chambers and to have the level of precision we want to show later on. So, thanks.
Patrick, can you just talk a little bit about why Leo decided to step down and how you're now the new CEO? Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. We communicated, I think, on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So we've created this company 5.5 years ago with Leo, and it took a very, very long time and a team of around 20 people in R&D to create this product. And it was, I think, extremely taxing on him. He's a very intense and very committed person. We've put everything we have in this company. And at some point, it became a bit too heavy. It was taking a toll on his personal life and on his health, psychological, like mental health. And I think it was the natural thing and the best thing for him, and therefore the best thing for the company, to step down of the role of CEO, still be involved, president until the end of the year, and then be involved at the board. But I think the job of CEO and founder for a deep tech startup is difficult. It takes a toll after a while.
Makes sense. Okay. Amazing. Maybe we can set up something else to hop back on, because I have a good amount of questions to get into, like the CADR, even the reviews. I noticed that for the average product on Amazon or just the average product with 140 reviews, there's at least, about 3 to 8% of the reviews are 1 and 2 stars, but there's no 1 star and there's no 2 stars on the NeoPX product.
Yeah. Let me get back to Alex. So I think we removed, I'm not sure, I think we removed 1 review. I'm not sure about the stars because it was just very weird. We didn't want to post this on our website.
Right.
But we post a single review every week. So we don't do any filtering outside of things that we just don't want like on our website, like when it comes to like some people write weird stuff. Other than that, I don't think we did any filtering. And that being said, I think we only have something like 100, a bit more.
Reviews. There's 140 reviews, and there's no 1 stars and there's no 2-star reviews. And for a plant shipping company, what you end up dealing with is a lot of dirt in the bottom of a box, and those comments are all over your Instagram, but they're not reported in the reviews, which are odd.
Yeah, this is also the tickets that we have, like customer tickets that soil goes down, etc. I don't know, like in all seriousness, like I don't know why. I think it's because the people that are interested in the plant to start with are early tech adopters, and they're very lenient for a company that is like just starting out. That would be my my kind of intuition. That being said, we have a lot of people that says, okay, when it comes to specifically unboxing experience, you can do better.
Right.
But this is from like our tickets that we receive, like when customer support. We haven't seen too much of those on the product review. But
okay.
Let me double check with Alex. I'm sure that we don't do any filtering, but it's a good question. I think at some point we will receive those for sure. I think the first customers are usually the most lenient ones, I would say.
I would agree with that. It was just weird because the average product that you look up with about 100, reviews has about 3 1-star reviews. It's just part of you can't make everyone happy, and it wouldn't make your product worse. It would just make it normal, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. No, really, we try to be really as transparent as we can. So for now, we don't have any bad reviews. We'll be very happy to publish them as soon as they end up, and I think they will. I think the bias is because we had a community that was engaged for a year and a half, following the mission, following the product. And these were the first that bought the product and that left the reviews. I suspect that in the next few weeks and months, we'll have much more diverse set of opinions, because this will be people that didn't know about us previously that now know about us because we're out there.
Okay.
And so now I think we'll have different ones. But yeah, I suspect that we'll have like a good percentage of bad reviews, and that's normal. And we need those. We need these feedbacks to iterate. Otherwise, we're just stagnant.
And do you think it's fair to say, like, it cleans the air 30 times better when you're just using the toluene number, where clean air comes from PM 2.5, PM 10, BTX, all the different Vox, a bunch of humidity, temperature, all these different things. Do you think it's fair to just say it cleans 30x better?
I don't think it's complete to say 30x better. I would love people to read the white paper, and thank you for reading it, and we're going to do the changes that we need to do. I would like people to learn more exactly about what it is, which VOCs, what are the most harmful ones, why benzene, toluene, xylene, formaldehyde, and then what are results on each of those. Difficult to put that on a tagline. So we want it to still show like, okay, what is our claim? What's the one thing that we are like, okay, this is something that we can say. 30 times better works, but we try to be as precise as we can where we can. So every time that we have the space or we say it's only against VOCs, and specifically benzene, toluene, xylene, more specifically. Is it fair? I would say it's the best we can do if you're going to have a small punchline.
Yeah.
But what I think is much more important is if people want to dig, they can dig deeper and deeper and go into the raw data and the white paper and ask the questions that you are asking, because they're very relevant questions that we really welcome. And we just want to be clearer, better at communication. So
I think that would be a huge just to do for the company, is to be very clear with the communication and know that a lot of us are going to dig into the white paper. And hopefully, Patrick, you and I can continue this conversation, maybe follow up email. But I'll let you head to the next meeting. And thank you for the time.
Sorry, Chris. Need to jump out, but I would love to have another one of these calls. Really, like important for us because we need to talk to people that are critical of what we're doing, because this is how we can get better.
Right.
And we're actually going to improve, because now, like, I don't know how we let it slip that it's still at 700 ppb. It should be at 100 ppb. And other things like this on communication. So very happy to have another call. Let me just circle back with Alex and see if we can schedule one